Hey everyone, welcome back to our series on teaching and learning in psychology. I'm Dr. Brittany Avila, and today we're going to dive into another crucial aspect of course design, course mapping. So we're going to use some course mapping tools to help make sure that our assessments and our course content are mapping onto those learning objectives that we've already set. So whether you're new to teaching or looking to improve your skills, hopefully this video helps. So what exactly is course mapping? Course mapping is just a visual representation of how our course fits together. So I like to think of it as kind of like a mind map or some type of visual representation to make sure that our assessments and our course content are mapping onto those learning objectives we've set. So hopefully we already have those learning objectives from that first video, and maybe you've looked at some ideas of what assessments are, and now we're going to kind of put them together in a visual representation to help make sure that everything's aligned together. So it's going to help ensure that our course objectives, our learning outcomes, and our assessments are all working together seamlessly. Think of it as kind of a roadmap, or again, a mind map that guides you and your students throughout the course. So why is course mapping important? It's important because it's going to ensure alignment within our class. It's going to make sure that we're actually meeting those learning objectives and they're not just there for no reason. It's going to link those learning outcomes to the assessments, to the course content through our textbooks that we choose later on, our resources that we choose. All of that's going to kind of come back together seamlessly. Second, it's going to help us identify any gaps. Are there things that we're not assessing? Do I have a learning outcome that I don't have any assessment for? Or are there things I'm assessing that aren't part of the learning outcomes? So they're really going to see, is our course in alignment with each other? Is everything there? Or is there a gap somewhere that you need to address? Finally, it's going to enhance transparency with your students. So it's going to allow you to have a clear plan for that class, and you can show that plan. I love showing students exactly how I've planned the course. I feel like it gets a lot more buy-in from them. They feel like it's not just for nothing. They feel like, oh, she's actually thought this through. She knows what she's doing. The instructor cares about us meeting these learning objectives. So it can really enhance that transparency. And when they understand why they're being assessed in a certain way or why that content is shaped the way it is, again, they're much more likely to focus their efforts into that class and know what's expected of them. All right, so let's dive into how to create a course map. I've done this in many different ways. A lot of times I end up just kind of creating a random course map on paper. I've put things into like Post-it notes and scratch paper, and I kind of draw them out. However, think about kind of how your brain works and how you visualize and represent information and a pathway in that class, and kind of use that. I've used a different one almost every semester because, again, my brain changes and I haven't quite figured out the best way, but typically I kind of, visually represent it on a piece of paper, and then I come back and put it all in this Excel file at the end to make sure that it's easy to read and easy to kind of submit to students if I want to show them or anything like that. And so I'm going to walk you through using that Excel file that I use. If you want to use it, it's available to download on my website under teaching resources, and you can use this one. There's also tons more online. You can find whichever one works best for you. All right, so here is the kind of Excel file or Google Sheets file that I like to use. And essentially it's just going to break down. So in this first column A, we have the student learning outcomes. Again, hopefully we already have some to be working with from that first video. So here's where we're going to just put in all those student learning outcomes we came up with, or all the ones that the department wants us to have. Next, we're going to talk about at what level we want that learning outcome to happen. So am I going to introduce it? Am I going to reinforce or practice it? Do I want students to become proficient at it? Do I really want them to master that learning outcome? This is going to depend a little bit on the course level. So I have an example here, and I'm using one of my course learning objectives from the intro psych class. That's a lower level intro class. So in this, I'm mostly going to introduce, maybe reinforce and practice. Probably not going to have students really become proficient or master unless it's a skill type, just because it's an intro level class and I expect them to go on to higher level classes to really master some more of that content. But in my upper level classes, I might put more of becoming proficient and mastering levels, because again, it kind of depends on what level of that class. So for this, let's look at my example. The first example is explaining major psychological theories and their historical development for an intro psych class. Again, introduce and maybe reinforce and practice this skill is about all I'm looking for here. And then I'm going to break it down into the two different types of assessments. So I'm going to look at formative assessments and I'm going to look at summative assessments. Again, I want a mix of both in my classes. So for this one, to understand major psychological theories, I'm probably going to do maybe some in-class activities, some clicker questions or quiz questions, maybe some exit tickets. Those are kind of my formative assessments to see whether or not students are understanding those learning outcomes or if I need to cover them a little bit more in class. Next, I have the summative assessments, so I'm probably going to use maybe the big course project in the course and some exams to help them really see if they've mastered that, or to help me really see if they've mastered that material, or at least mastered it for an intro level. I've also included 3 other columns here, one for different readings, one for videos, and other resources. I like to kind of put these all in the same place when I'm planning a course. So I like to map out where the readings are going, where the videos are going. So if I have any videos that are specific towards this learning outcome, if I have any parts of a reading assignment that's specific to this learning outcome, or any other resources that I'm giving students at that time, I like to put it here again, mostly to increase that transparency with students, to show you, hey, this video I'm showing you isn't for nothing. It's to hit this learning outcome. It's to do this type of thing. So let's do one example together. So another learning objective I had for this class was to increase information literacy. So this is their ability to understand how to find sources, how to evaluate sources, all of those types of things. And this is a skill, less so content area, more skill-based content I want them to know. And at this point, I'm going to want them to reinforce and practice. I'm not going to expect them to be proficient in information literacy in an intro class. That's more my upper level classes. I have a capstone course where I really want them to master that information literacy. But right now in an intro level, we're just going to kind of reinforce. We're going to practice it over and over again. So for formative assessments, I'm definitely going to use some in-class activities here. I'll give them different assignments. I'll give them maybe a journal article, and I'll have them evaluate whether or not that is a legitimate source and why. Maybe I have them research who the authors are, who funded the project, something like that, or some type of in-class activity where they have to go onto the library website and search for an article or something like that. So some type of in-class activity would be a great formative assessment here. For summative assessment, I would probably put this into the course project. Maybe not so much exams. It'd be a little bit harder on a multiple choice exam in an intro class, but in their course project, maybe they can look for certain articles and kind of pull those in, and I could see it there. And then readings would be any of the articles that either they pull or I pull for them. And then if I have any videos or things like that for them, or maybe even just lectures, sometimes I can add a column here of what lecture this information is in, so that again we can kind of see if that alignment exists. And that's really how I do it. Again, this is available on my website under teaching resources. And again, if you have any questions, please put them below. I'm happy to answer them at any time, or give a video on some type of content that you want. So I hope this helps, and good luck.